Hello, Shannon's back. Sorry it took me an extra day to get back to this. I wanted to make sure that I had plenty of time and was going to cover everything. Um, I want to start where I left off in the last video. I really didn't like having to split this movie into two, having to come back to it, but I'm trying to make my videos shorter so that everybody that wants to see it can better time watching the videos. Anyway, I want to pick up right where we left off. We stopped in the movie where Elphaba tells the wizard to run, and he basically says, try to understand. She says, no. That he says, I'm not a bad man. She says, yes, you're a very bad man. And then she tells him to run. This is basically judgment, and I went again over the Levirate marriage. Up until judgment, we're all supposed to be moving from an Adam who points a finger and blames everybody, the fleshly nature, to an Eve, or an Elphaba in the movie, instead of the wizard who's made the sorcerer his confidant, like flesh has made the enemy the spirit. We're supposed to move from one to the other, and when we move into the other, then we are actually accepting the bride of the husband that's died. When we don't, we're refusing to that bride that belongs to the one that died. And I'm speaking on spiritual terms, and I know it's difficult for those who haven't yet been able to convert the physical to the spiritual. It's difficult, but the word is spiritual. God is spirit. He lives in his people, but not in just one person. He lives in all of us in a different way. He has a different calling. And so I am trying to show the various ways that that is shown through the movies, through the Word, through the stories in the Word. And so I'm trying to show you how to be a seer of that which can't be seen with physical eyes. So you have to be able to convert the physical mentally into the spiritual and what it actually means. So the captain and Glinda were fixing to get married, but the animals, after they bust out when Elphaba finds them and lets them loose, they break up that wedding. Well, that's basically what's going to happen in the world, because everybody thinks that they're righteous who looks the part rather than aren't really the part inward. It's about what's inward, not on the outside. And what is inwardly righteous doesn't always look righteous on the outside. We're not using the proper judgment system for that. So the animals break up this wedding. The captain doesn't want to get married. Fiyero goes to find out what's happening and finds Elphaba dealing with the wizard, asking him how it feels to have your voice taken away. What she does is she puts him up against a cage and she has her staff up on his neck. And of course, the taking away the voice, I covered that in Cinderella, in The Little Mermaid, who gives up her voice, and she's got to win people over in love. This is a theme, because God's people have been told to shut up, to be quiet, be seen and not heard. So Fiyero pretends to side, the captain is Fiyero. He pretends to side with the wizard at first and then locks him in a cage to set Elphaba free. He then chooses her over Glinda. Elphaba tells him he frightened her because for a while she thought he'd changed. He takes her hand and says, I have changed. And in the process, Glinda's upset because she finds him with her, helping her, and them leaving together. Glinda's so upset that she suggests that the wizard and the sorcerer go after Nessa to capture Elphaba. The sorcerer says perhaps a change in the weather, because of course that's the only power that the enemy has. He can cause storms, he causes chaos and conflict. So if someone in your life is always causing chaos and conflict, you can bet their spirit is of the enemy, it's not of God. Now, there is a time when God does cause storms and chaos for those who are his enemies. But it's after all patience has been exhausted. And it happens through his people. Like, for instance, a woman divorces her husband after 30 years of being together because he still continues to do the same things, and then blames her and does not accept any accountability for his own actions. He's not changing, and in blaming her, he's not really covering her, so he's divorcing her just like Adam in the garden. So there was never really a marriage. If he chose to blame her for everything going wrong, then literally there was never really a spiritual marriage. It might have been on paper, but he didn't really accept her as his wife, or he would have covered her. Instead, he chose the principality and power, just like Adam in the garden, when God says, because you listen to your wife, he's not speaking about Eve. He's speaking about the enemy that was living within him. We know because the enemy's job is to accuse flesh and God, and Adam accused flesh of my flesh and God. It was this woman you gave me. This is how we see spiritually, the spirit that's living, breathing, walking, talking in flesh. So let me see where I'm at. Glenda sings a song about a girl she knows. He loves her so. I'm not that girl. Now, in the first movie, Alphaba sang that song, because through the whole 2 movies, this is about the second Adam. That's Captain Fierro. He's playing the part of Yeshua. He's also playing the part of flesh that's going to decide which wife he wants, which spirit. Is he going to follow the spirit that listens to the flesh and the fleshly nature? That's Glenda in the movie. Or is he going to follow the Spirit of God? That's Alphaba in the movie. So that's one scenario going on. Okay, so, I don't know if you can flip that and see that or not. You have to watch the movie, you have to know your word, and you have to be able to think kind of across several planes at the same time. I know it's difficult, it's deep. I would consider it Kabbalah. It's the soul level of a movie, just like the soul level of a story in the Bible. It's the same thing. And I don't know how else to describe it. That's the only way I know how to describe it. How did I learn how to do it? I don't know. I just started doing it. It's just a part of who I am. So Alphaba and Fierro, they run off together, and he tells Alphaba she's beautiful, and she says, you don't have to lie to me. Now this is important. He says, it's not lying, it's looking at things another way. Maybe, and then he starts to sing, maybe I'm brainless, maybe I'm wise. Okay, now remember, he's going to be the scarecrow later. Okay, and in the first movie, Glenda explains that she and he were fine until he started to think. And then there was confusion. Because once you start thinking for yourself, is this right? Is this wrong? Should this be done? Should that be done? Then, of course, the enemy is going to consider you a problem. He's the scarecrow who sings, if only I had a brain. And remember, we're supposed to be wise as serpents and gentle as doves. And Glenda had told Alphaba in the first movie, okay, I went over that. He is the flesh choosing the spiritual nature, Alphaba, over the fleshly nature, Glenda. He says Alphaba has him seeing through different eyes. Her third eye, the spiritual eyes. And that's what we're all supposed to do. We're supposed to live this life on a higher plane, the spiritual plane. We're not supposed to live from the waist down. We're supposed to live from the waist up. The waist down is our animal nature. The waist up is our godly nature. Both of them are embraced, and they both raise up into the air, symbolic of the spiritual nature. They're being raised. They're being lifted. Alphaba says for the first time she feels wicked because he chose her. The sorcerer causes a storm, and Nessa goes looking for Bach. Now that's back to the other story where Bach goes out, he's the Tin Man, and she's gone looking for him. The sorcerer causes the storm. Alphaba senses what's happening, And she says the house has hit Nessa and killed her, because the house eventually flies with Dorothy in it and hits Nessa and kills her. This takes my mind to the two houses, the house of Judah, the house of Israel. Nessa represents the house of Judah. Adam is Judah. Judah was the one that ruled over Israel. That was why they separated. So Dorothy in the house is Israel. Alphabet is Israel. And so on and so forth. And remember, when the two houses become one, they're called Israel. Judah's name is blotted out. However, and this is something I don't know if I've made this clear or not, Adam represents Judah spiritually, but physically he's Israel. Eve is the opposite. Spiritually she's Israel, but her flesh is Judah. She became one with flesh. He was Judah inwardly. She's become one with him physically. So her flesh is Judah. The two houses become one. And remember, in the Levirate marriage, once the other side takes it, the firstborn is to represent Yeshua, the second Adam. And his flesh is Judah. I don't know if you're getting that. I am going to teach this over and over again in a more remedial fashion at a later date. I'm just touching on these things to get some minds thinking about it. Okay, let's see. Oh, and Nessa was the wicked witch of the east. The monkeys then side with Alphaba and Fiero. Now, remember, the monkeys with wings, they represented Adam. Okay, and, once they're freed, and basically those who are like the monkeys, we got them everywhere in the world, pointing out people, trying to find what people are doing wrong. They may be guilty of the same thing, but in order to keep their whatever they got going on, they're going to do it because they're serving a different person. It's just like the dragons in the How to Train Your Dragon. The dragons going out, breathing their fire on people. It's the same thing. They are synonymous with the monkeys with wings, spiritually speaking. But once they see who is trying to free them, then the monkeys side with Alphaba and they become her mechanism. Glinda gives Dorothy Nessa's shoes. Now, remember, the shoes are very important. The shoes are found in the Cinderella story, too. They represent a covering over the feet do the walking. They're supposed to walk the way of love. So Dorothy's got these shoes, and if you remember at the very end, Glinda tells her, all you got to do is click them 3 times, and it makes me think of death, burial, and resurrection, because once you resurrect, you're home. Garden of Eden. Now, of course, these are my insights. You don't have to see it that way, but I'm showing you, I'm pointing it out so that maybe you can see it once I point it out. If you don't, just let it go. It's not a big deal. This is for people that can see it, because it's a glorious thing what God has done through his creation. And I just am so in love with how he works that I want to share it. And I've taken a lot of flack for trying to share it, but I'm not going to take that away from the people that can really enjoy what I have to share. So I'm going to go ahead and do it regardless of the naysayers. The naysayers can get thee behind me, Satan. Okay, so... And it's not Satan. Some people just are not there yet. So don't be offended. I'm being a little funny, but I'm not trying to offend anybody. Okay, so Alphaba and Glinda get in a fight over her giving Dorothy Nessa's shoes and sending her to the wizard knowing that he can't help her. And Alphaba says those shoes were all that she had left of her sister. They weren't hers to give. She says, it seems a lot of us are taking what doesn't belong to us, and then they fight over the captain. Because, of course, Glinda's still mad. And basically, this is a picture of the enmity within each one of us. We've got two spirits warring with each other over who is going to be able to control the flesh that they live in. And that is what this is really about. Who is the captain going to choose to listen to? And therefore that spirit gets to live in that flesh. God wants to live in our temple, the flesh. That's what this whole situation is about. And it's told in a beautiful love story between two women fighting over a man. But it's really about the man choosing which spirit he's going to listen to, this voice or this voice. And it's just so beautifully done, and it shows up through their names, and I mean, it's just all inspiring to me. The guardmen come and they get Elphaba, and the captain comes and threatens Glinda. And they let Elphaba go, and the monkeys go to protect her. And then the captain is taken to be killed. And Glinda tells them to stop. He apologizes to Glinda, and they take him away. Elphaba sings a song, a spell out of the book of protection over the captain. Now, this is important because I've always said that I felt this book represented the Bible, and this right here is going to show you that it does. She starts singing a song, and in that song, some of the words that you can understand, she says, "Let no bones be broken," Psalm 34:20. He protects all his bones, not one of them will be broken. She says, "Let him never die." He represents the second Adam, Yeshua, the man who chose to serve the God of Spirit, played by Elphaba. I and the Father are one. And they have already become one in the movie when he ran off with her. And they had an evening together. And it's symbolic of them he becoming one with the Spirit of God when he made his choice and didn't marry the other one. Then Elphaba, sings a song. She sings, "No good deed goes unpunished. No act of charity goes unresented." Now, I want y'all to listen to this song because we humans, we go through this every day. Those of us that are really trying to make everybody happy and see peace going on in our families and with our friends and stuff, we go through this. Because those who have the spirit of the enemy will find something to blame you for, even when you're trying to help them. And I mean, I've done it myself too. I found fault with people that have helped me, but not because of the help they gave, but because of the spirit behind it, which some people can't see, but I can see. And I didn't care about the money. It was about the attitude and the ugliness behind it. Anyway, she says, "No good deed goes unpunished. That's my new creed. My road of good intentions led where such roads always lead. No good deed goes unpunished." And this is a beautiful song that she sings. And I want you guys, please, watch the movie. The music is phenomenal, and their voices are just, I mean, God really gave them talents. And then she sings Nessa, who she tried to help, Dr. Dillman, Piero. One question haunts and hurts too much to mention. Was I really seeking good or just seeking attention? Now, a lot of times, those who are trying to do good will ask themselves that because we are always trying to keep ourselves in check. And so the first thing we do is ask ourselves, well, what was my intentions really? And I can see where sometimes I've done things to try to help people to be seen as good, but it was really because the company I was keeping wouldn't have kept my company in a different circumstance at some times. It was about what could I give them, and it wasn't a genuine love. And I do think that some have genuinely loved to their ability, to the best that they could. And then because I overdid it, because that's what givers do. If you're a giver, it feels uncomfortable to receive. So you're the giver. You're mimicking God. You're the male. The male is the giver. The female is the receiver. And it's okay to receive, but not if it gets out of hand. And those who give, they will receive, but they won't let somebody overgive. And that gives away what the heart really is. So she says, was I really seeking good or just seeking attention? Is that all good deeds are when looked at with an ice-cold eye? And that's what I'm saying. Those who have an ice-cold eye will find any reason to complain about things that people do that are trying to help. It's not always an ice-cold eye, but more often than not. And in this movie, yes, it is. It's that all good deeds are maybe that's the reason why. No good deed goes unpunished. All helpful urges should be circumvented, which I looked up that word. It's find a way around. No good deed goes unpunished. Sure, I meant well. Well, look what well meant did. All right enough. So be it then. Let all in Oz be agreed. I'm wicked. And she's giving up. And she's going now to let them believe she's wicked through and through. And since I can't succeed, Fiyero saving you, I promise no good deed will I attempt to do again, ever again. No good deed will I do again. And that's where she ends after she thinks that Fiyero's gone. She doesn't know yet that he's alive. Dorothy, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion are at the Wizard's. The Wizard says he's not seeing anyone. The Sorcerer says these are visitors we can use. The Wizard tells them to bring him Elphaba's broomstick, which, remember, the broomstick represents the commandments. It made me think of Moses giving the 10 Commandments, only it's in the physical. They didn't understand it from the spiritual, and as a matter of fact, the first 2 were broken. The stone with the 2 on it was broken. It's the commandments about loving and remembering that God's the one that led you out of the land of Egypt. It's the 2 that were broken by Adam. Loving neighbor and loving God with all your heart. Dorothy the Scarecrow, okay. The Wizard says, okay, broomstick. They are sent to kill Elphaba. The crowd, they're singing Killer. Glinda gets alarmed. Now at this point, now Glinda is feeling a bit guilty about the way things are going. The Tin Man out amongst the people is blaming her that he's heartless. The Tin Man has no heart. Now, what happened with him is he paired himself up with the Wicked Witch, Nessa. Well, instead of still covering her in love and continuing to fight the good fight, he's lost his heart, which many of us will do. We've been pushed to the other side instead of remaining in the vine with God, walking in love. And then the Lion's story is told by the Tin Man, and Elphaba is blamed for him being a coward. And he's saying, well, she rescued him from the cage, and he wasn't able to go through all the suffering to become strong and courageous. That's why he's a coward. And then Ariana sings a beautiful song. She sings a song about the girl in the bubble living dreams based on a lie. So now she's looking at herself after everything that's happened. She's now giving herself a good hard look. She says it's hard to unsee what you've seen. It's time for her bubble to pop. She's basically saying it's time to become righteous instead of looking righteous, looking the part. She's feeling guilty about living her dreams based on a lie, and she now knows she has to put a stop to it and take a stand. She goes to the madam and says things have gone too far. The madam thinks Elphaba can take care of herself. Glinda asks her about Nessa and the cyclone. Madam says it was sad and supposes it was her time. Glinda says, was it, or did you do it? Madam accuses her of wanting that from the beginning, and now she's getting what she wanted, and now she will do what she does best and smile, wave, and shut up. So now she's talking to her like God's people have been spoken to. When someone wants to do the right thing and share what they believe is right, someone's always there to shut them up. Cinderella, The Little Mermaid, Aladdin's Princess, same pattern. I've had multiple people tell me the same thing. Put me off. Oh, it's not time for you to talk about that. When is it time? I was given a message by God to relay, and I have been shut up and shut up and shut up about it. That's why I started my channel, because I'm going to do what I've been asked to do. Alphaba sends the monkeys after Dorothy for her sister's shoes. They get her and bring her to her. Alphaba tells Dorothy to stop crying and get those shoes off her feet. She's not feeling like doing any good deeds. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the two angels in the garden with the swords that turn the other around. Those angels are living within us. I have an angel living within me that walks in love. And then there are others who have an angel living in them that walks in hate. And when the two are together, like Alphaba and Glinda, the way they handle things is going to turn the other one around. So right now, Alphaba has turned from doing the good deeds because of all the other people who didn't walk in love. So now she's frustrated because her patience has been exhausted. That's the patience of God working in her. So when God judges, the patience is gone. No more nice guy. Okay? Now Glinda is turning around because she's gotten to know Alphaba and the way Alphaba does things. So she's there to remind Alphaba, no, no, no. That girl is innocent. Let her go. And that's the two living within us. We've got flesh, and it's going from this voice to this voice. And so Glinda is now starting to listen to the other voice, Alphaba's voice. And she's going to cast away the other voice. But it's only because she's had a friend in Alphaba who has put up with her and tried to be a friend to her. And that's the flaming swords turning one other to the other. Now, that also goes with the blessing that was given to Jacob and Esau. They were given the same blessing, but in the reverse. So, Alphaba is fixing to be living. Glinda's fixing to be laying it down. Glinda got the physical blessing first. Alphaba's got the spiritual. They're fixing to swap. That's the flaming sword that's swapping them. And it's really like, if you go to the story of the cupbearer and the baker, when the cupbearer is restored to his position, he forgets the father's house. Now remember Alphaba's name. It's the Aleph and Abba, the father. Well, she's been living as the father, but when she picks up her life, now she's the Aleph. She's the first and the last. She picked the last portion first. Now she's going to walk in the first portion. They're swapping positions. So everybody gets a turn to live, basically. That's how God set it up. So, let's see, where am I? Give me a second. So Alphaba sends the monkeys to get Dorothy to stop crying, and she's not feeling like doing any good deeds. Glinda comes in and tells her they are coming for you. Now, when she left, she put on her a black cape and black shoes, so now she's starting to dress like Alphaba. This is where she's starting to change, and this is the point that love covers and love conquers in this movie, because Alphaba has loved her through the whole movie. So she tells her to let the little girl go. Alphaba tells her to go away, and Glinda tells her she can't go on like this, and Alphaba says she can do whatever she wants. Haven't you heard? I'm the Wicked Witch of the West. Now Chessery brings Alphaba a piece of Fiero's clothing to tell her he's gone. Glinda cries. Alphaba tells Glinda she's right, and it's time. I surrender. Glinda says, wait. Alphaba fills the water bucket with water. The people think because she's wicked, it will kill her, kind of like all the people who have decided a certain kind of people need a preaching the water so they can be baptized and circumcised in the heart. When these people are already one with the water that quenches thirst. And that's, when I was baptized in the church, I was already one with the water. I did it as a public show, but I was also baptized as a baby. But baptism of the water is not about the physical being baptized as much as it is about in spirit. Being baptized in spirit when you are walking in the water of forgiveness, in the water of understanding, in the water of love. The water is the message of walking the way of love. Glenda tells her, Elphaba tells Glenda she must go, and Glenda tells her she will tell everybody the truth about her. She says, no, you can't, because they will just turn against you. I need you to promise me that you will not try to clear my name. Which is a hint of Jacob, who's claiming to be Esau. He's claiming that he's the one that's wicked. He's the fleshly nature. He's put on Esau's clothes, the flesh. But God knows, because he says, but you sound like Jacob, and it's all about what we speak. So he was given what he chose, the spiritual blessing. And Esau chose the physical blessing. They're given what they chose, just like Adam and Eve. Eve is given the spiritual blessing. Adam was given the physical. But Adam got death because he broke the spiritual. Eve didn't get death, but because she's flesh of his flesh, her flesh dies, but her spirit will live on. And, that's New Testament. If you're not in the New Testament, you may not follow that as well. They argue, and Glenda says, why? Let me see. Because they need someone to be wicked so that you can be seen as good. And this is why the movie is called Wicked for Good. Elphaba is basically saying that I need to be seen as wicked so that you can be seen as good. And that's the older teaching the younger. The older's going to take the blame. Teach the younger how to behave. That's what's been going on through the whole movie. Elpha's been showing Glenda how to behave. Now, Glenda also showed her how to behave physically with her dress, how to get along in the physical world, because we're living in both. The thing is that we can live in the physical world and enjoy all the blessings God has given us, but we have to do it with love. There's no other way around that. And that is the whole lesson here as well as in the Bible. So, Eve claimed to be the guilty one too for Adam, so that he could be seen as good. So Elphaba sings, I'm limited. Just look at me, not with your eyes, but their eyes. I'm limited, and just look at you. You can do all I couldn't do, Glenda. She gives Glenda the book that I say represents the Bible. She says, take it. Glenda says, I can't read it. Elphaba says, you have to learn. We cannot let good be just a word. It has to mean something. It has to change things, because now it is up to you, for both of us. Now it is up to you. Elphaba says, you're the only friend I ever had. Glenda says, and I've had so many friends, but only one that counted or mattered. And that's Elphaba. Reminded me of what a friend we have in Yeshua, the song. They sing, I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn. We are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them. And we help them in return. We don't know if, I don't know if I believe that's true. But I know I'm who I am today because I knew you. Now, I want to talk about this song before I finish it. This is basically about the yin and the yang, learning to live together as one. The flesh and the spirit, learning to live together as one. And so I want to talk about the three bears, because this is going to prove my point. Papa Bear's bed is too hard. That would be Adam. That would be Esau. Okay? Mama Bear's bed is too soft. Well, that would be those who are the givers and the givers and the givers, and they're soft, and they just patience and patience and patience, and it doesn't work with everybody. There are going to be those out there pushing and pushing and pushing. But now baby's bear's bed is just right, because why? Because baby represents mom and dad's bed in one, in proper proportion. It's the yin and the yang living together as one. And that is what this movie is all about. The two becoming one in one body, in balance. We have to have the flesh to protect the spirit when it's called for. So we can't be too hard, but we also can't be too soft. We have to be able to be hard enough to say no, to stand up and be courageous like Glinda is doing now. So she's adopting that mentality from what she's learned from Alphaba. So the rest of the song, who can say if I've been changed for the better, but because I knew you, I have been changed for good. It well may be that we will never meet again in this lifetime, so that we say before we part, so much of me is made of what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint of my heart. And now whatever way our stories end, I know you have rewritten mine by being my friend. Now, our own flesh has to be a friend to who we are inwardly. So our flesh is allowed to cover certain things we've chosen to do that are broken rules, because we can't love others until we love ourselves. And so we must be a friend to ourselves to be a friend to others. And not be so hard on ourselves, especially if we're not hard on anyone else. Who can say if I've been changed for the better, but because I knew you, I have been changed for good. And just to clear the air, I ask forgiveness for the things you blame me for. That's Alphaba singing, because she's been blamed for all these things. And then Glinda comes back with, but then I guess we know there's blame to share. And that's the whole point. Those like Eve, those like Jacob have already confessed that they're wicked. And so now what they need is the mercy that they've given to the other. God said, I desired mercy, not sacrifice. Because when Adam spoke, he sacrificed the God living in Eve. When Esau spoke, he sacrificed the God living in Jacob. And on and on and on. These are patterns. And then it goes on to say, and none of it seems to matter anymore. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? I do believe I have been changed for the better. Because I knew you, I have been changed for good. And that's this song before they part, about them becoming one with each other. In the beginning, in the garden, Eve has become one like Adam. Adam did not become one with Eve in spirit. Eve became one with Adam in flesh. Her spirit was different. They were not equally yoked. Alphaba hides Glinda when the people come to get her. Alphaba gets Glinda, and the people believe they melted her with the water. Dorothy takes her broom. She's still wearing the shoes, a covering over her walk. 3 clicks gets her home, which again I said was like death, burial, and resurrection. And I'm really not talking about Dorothy's character. They're taking the yellow brick road, which is built by those of us who are God's people. Glinda grieves, and the monkey gives Glinda Alphaba's green jar that was her mother's. Glinda tells the wizard she's dead and shows him her green jar that belonged to her mother. That's when he realizes that Alphaba was his daughter. He plays Adam, and Alphaba came out of him, making her the Eve I said she's playing, who has the real Father living within her, that she's named after. Her part is named after the Father, both the Aleph and the Father. Father is equal to Tav because the Father takes the last place. A real father, like Enoch, He was a real father because he put his children first. He put his wife first. So he's taking the last position. That's her name. Glinda says this is why she had power. She was a child of both worlds. He says, "What have I done? You have caused great harm," she says, "which is why you will be leaving Oz today." Now this is where she stands up and she says no more to him. She is changing because of Alphaba. She's learning how to not to be a coward, but to be courageous and stand up for what's right. He says, "What will I tell the people?" She says, "Make something up. You're good at that." The monkey escorts him out. Then Glinda visits Madame and, "Excuse me, what do you want?" "Look out your window. You don't want to miss this," she says. And Glinda starts to talk to the sorcerer the way she talked to her. Dorothy leaves. Glinda says, "The wizard has taken a permanent leave of absence." She says, "Can you not find it in your heart to forgive me?" She says she can see now how truly good that Glinda is. And actually, Glinda says, "Actually, I'm not yet. But just think, madam, you have so many cages to choose from." In other words, this is the first time that Glinda has confessed her sin one to another. That's what Eve did in the garden with, "I did it, I believed, can't be deceived unless you first believe." She's confessing her sin one to another. Jacob is confessing that he's the guilty one. He's the animal-natured. And I know some people don't get that, but that's what I believe is going on in that story. If you haven't seen that video, please go back and watch it. It's just, I didn't see it until not that long ago. Anyway, she says, "I can not imagine how you'll hold up very well. I mean, my personal opinion is you do not have what it takes." That's what the sorcerer told her. "I hope you prove me wrong." "I doubt you will," and the monkeys take her out. Glinda puts on her crown. "The Wicked Witch is dead," she says. Glinda says she has much to attend to at the wizard's departure. Someone asks, "Is it true that you were her friend?" "Yes, I did know her. Our paths did cross at school." And then she says, "Wait. Fellow Ozians," she puts her wand down. "All Ozians, animals, friends, because I don't see any enemies here." In other words, her side is changing. She's not seeing people wicked anymore. Because she's changing. She's becoming like Alphaba. "We've been through frightening times, and more will come, but if you will let me, I'd like to try and help to change things. I'd like to try to be Glinda the Good." In other words, now she's going to actually walk the part and not just look like the part. All the animals come home, and remember, the animals represent those who are considered the animal culture. That's the people every day that others look at and point fingers at and call them wicked. That's what the animal culture in this movie represents. Alphaba was hidden in the floor. All the animals come home, and Fiyero actually is alive. He's dressed in the scarecrow, which I found was funny because the scarecrow has all this wheat on him. Remember that he's the second Adam. He's also the wheat. Just like Eve, just like Alphaba. They're the wheat. Those like the wizard. Those like the sorcerer. It was Glinda in the beginning, but not anymore. They're the tares. And that's our flesh. The Adam of us is the tare. The tare and the wheat grow up together. They part at death. One goes to the ground, back to the earth. That's the flesh, is the firstborn of the enemy. And the other one goes back to God. That's the secondborn, which is the firstborn of God. Let me see where I am. He says they all think you're dead. He says, "You saved my life." And remember, she and he are one. She is the spirit within him. When Yeshua came, he was the second Adam. But where was the second Eve? She wasn't taken out of him. She was within him. That's the spirit working in him. That's what makes him the perfect sacrifice. That's in the New Testament. The book goes together. So Alphabet tells him, she says, you're beautiful. He says, you don't have to lie to me. She says, it's not lying. It's looking at things another way. Time to go. Glenda is looking at her green bottle. Alphabet says, I wish Glenda could know that we are alive. Now remember, Yeshua is believed to be alive in another place that we can't see. Still symbolic of what's going on here. Alphabet says, I know she can't. No one can ever know. Glenda goes to the window outside, and Alphabet looks back and gives Glenda the power to read the book after she becomes the new version of flesh. Her flesh now belongs to Yeshua. When Yeshua says, eat my flesh, drink my cup, that's not literal. That's not even about the symbology in the Catholic Church. Yeshua's flesh are those who walk his way. That's me. It's my flesh. And it means consume and devour yourself. Take the blame. Drinking my cup means you're going to do what I did. You're going to not only take the blame, but you're going to cover them. Forgive them, Father. They don't know what in the hell they're doing. And forgive me for the way I say things, but it's just so remedial to me at this point. It's really just not that hard to see. And, you know, I know there's plenty of people out there that are going to see this and just be in the same kind of, I'm just awestruck by this movie. I cried and cried. I watched and watched and watched this movie, and I couldn't get through it without crying. It's beautiful. Anyway, so Glenda now has the power to read the book. And she went from an Adam to an Eve. And then they end the movie by singing, because I knew you, I have been changed. And you know, when in the book with Yeshua, and he says, there'll be many that come to me in my name, and I'll say, part from me, I never knew you. To know someone is to be like them. They got to know each other, and they became like each other. We're living in a world where we need both our flesh and our spirit, but our flesh has to be controlled. There is a time and a place for it. There's a time to be a dragon. There's a time to judge others when they are not doing correct to you, when you've been patient, when you've been loving, when you have given your life, when you have done and done and done. There was a time when I thought I was going to die. I was just working to the bone, long hours, and coming home and trying to make sure everybody was happy, and no help whatsoever. I mean, there is a time to say enough is enough. And it's time for someone else to pick up their mat and walk. That's what Jesus said. What he was speaking about was, you made your bed, now you sleep in it. Stop trying to get someone else to carry your load. It's like the donkey that spoke, and he says, why are you hitting me? The donkey was not a real donkey. The donkey, again, is an animal. It's describing the nature. A donkey carries a load. Who in the garden was supposed to carry the load? Eve. It's a description of her personality, of her spirit, and what she's going to be doing in the world. And she's carrying the load and then being hit by the one she's carrying the load for. Shameful. That's why the shoes are being taken off, and he's going to be spit in the face. Because it is time for him to become like her. When I say him, I'm talking about all of those like Adam, who are still pointing a finger and blaming, looking at what other people are doing. They're trying to get the log out of other people's eyes, the speck out of other people's eyes instead of the log out of their own. That was the sin in the garden. He did not love his neighbor or maker. And he used them to cover him. He was the first Asherah pole. He worshipped himself. That's the man that's not supposed to be worshipped. It's not about Jesus, the man. Call no man father. It's not talking about any man. It's talking about men like Adam that won't lay their lives down for their children or for their wife. You don't call them father because they're not being a father. It's not about a title called rabbi or father so-and-so in the Catholic Church. It's not about that at all. So once we get the basic knowledge of what really happened in the garden, then we can go from there, because the rest of the Bible makes perfect sense once that's understood. But until then, it's mixed up. In other words, well, I'm trying to think of that passage that we're not supposed to mix one with the other, and it's talking about mixing the physical with the spiritual. The physical law with the spiritual. We all got death for anything physical that we'll ever do. We all were punished with death. So the second judgment is about the heart, and in Matthew it says, by your words you're acquitted, by your words you're condemned. Adam was condemned because he blamed his neighbor and maker. Eve was acquitted because she covered her neighbor and maker by exposing the enemy living in her neighbor as well as herself. And that's the second judgment. It all looks the same to the physical eye, but not to the spiritual eye. So with that being said, I hope that you guys were as amazed as I was. I hope that eventually I can sit with a group of people, we can watch the movie together and stop it as we go, because it's just so much more interesting to actually have the movie going, listen to the music, hear the words, and really hear that message and talk about it as we go. But until I'm able to do that, this is how I choose to do it, and I don't have something in the works right now as far as a movie. I do have something else that I'm working on. Don't want to really talk about it till it's done. So I'm asking you for prayers and blessings that I get on it and that I can do it and do it well while I'm waiting for whatever I'm waiting for. I'm just waiting on God, just like everybody else. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for likes, shares, and subscribes. And I will see you next time. Bye.